Hello, 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 all my lovely beasties. Welcome to the lair. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody say hi to Croc.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Croc, you sent that to Patty, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Actually, I sent it to Patty and Boom both.
that's fine. How's everybody doing today? Don't worry, guys. Boom might be here, and then you all get to hear her extremely sexy voice that the chat apparently is all about. I gotta love my sister. Cookie, you didn't get a message? What message didn't you get? It didn't notify you about this? Cookie, do you have your notifications turned on? I mean, you should have gotten a notification.
I didn't get one either.
You didn't get a message other than the notification. I'm confused. What message? Danny, yay!
Yay, Danny!
Well, oh, Croc said he was messaging. I just asked if he sent Patty a link for me. Yeah, Danny, because of you, you're actually one of the reasons I did it. I scheduled this yesterday. Hey, Glenn, how are you, darling? Yeah, no, I put this up yesterday intentionally to try to make sure everyone got it. Yes, I'm well aware, Pokey, that Gavin is garbage, but like we are going to cover a level of stupid with Mr. Newsome that I just Micro Loki makes better. Scotto, my love, how are you? Hey, J. Michael, haven't seen you in forever. How are you? How's grad school? I know you're busy. Yeah, Danny, I'm trying to like get them scheduled the day before so you have enough notice. And then my love, my Scotto. But yeah, California's wilding out over there. Wilding out this week. And then I don't know if you guys oh, you start in January, J. Michael? Very cool. Um you also let me know when you're free. We'll have to do a stream together again. Um yeah. So I don't know if you heard about this one in Indiana. Yes, Indiana today. Yeah, there was a hey Navy techs. There was a tanker truck accident, and the tanker truck was full of ammonia. So
Oh no!
there's multiple fatalities running
Ouch!
right now, and not only is there multiple fatalities, they're trying to deal with an ammonia gas cloud.
Yeah,
Great. Oh God, great. Yeah, Scotto, you need to be here for the California stupid. Um, I just yes, see, Alan, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that because that's a thing. And I really need to stop rage cleaning firearms because I'm gonna take the finish off some of them at this rate.
yeah. You might not want to do that.
I got like 35 more that haven't been cleaned in a couple years that I pulled out of safes. So,
It's about time.
oh yeah, but still. So, which coast stupid do we want to cover first? We have California stupid and we have Maryland stupid.
Let's start with
Hey
Maryland.
Ben, how are you? How's the family? How's everybody? How's the wife holding on, hanging up, like holding up? And Ben, the beasties are all here for you and your family. And you have my phone number if your wife needs to talk. Yeah, Cookie, you gotta go on a serious cleaning binge. We gotta. We can clean guns together. Um, I'll give people a few more minutes to roll on in, but I will say, um, plans wise, I am going to set up a Rumble stream and um, I'm going to set up a Rumble stream and I will make sure to put out the link and a redirect from a stream here where I can clean and dismantle live on screen. They don't have the same restriction YouTube does. So, okay, Ben, she doesn't have to. I mean, like, she can always just text me. I just wanted to make sure you guys had a way to get a hold of me if you needed something. Because I know it's a rough thing. I know what you guys are going through is rough. And, you're all loved and in our thoughts and prayers and, the beasties all feel for you. Yeah, Glenn, that's what we are talking about tonight, and thank you for the super chat. That was very sweet. Yeah, we are going to cover that tonight, Glenn. That's why if you read the title, it starts with the word livid.
Oh, that's gonna end well.
So, that's cool, Navy Tex. If you need to put me down as a reference for something, let me know. Yeah, Cookie Mon, my little, you get your milestone message. Yay! Cookie's been here for a month. But yeah, no, Glenn, that's literally why we started this with Livid Loki. There's just the gun stupid.
I want to hear the stupid first because
What?
I want to hear the Maryland stupid first because, well, California, that's aneurysm territory. We might not get to Maryland if you start off with California.
Yeah. Hey Nick, how are you? Thank you, Glenn. I'm glad you like the channel. We like having you here. And I'm glad to see you were all amused last night when I had to inform somebody on another channel that no, you may not, in fact, own a firearm and possess one while you're the subject of a protective order. I don't care. No, all the no-nos.
Wait, say that again. If you're under a protective order, you can't have a gun?
No. Somebody in another chat last night was trying to say that just because someone has a protective order against you. So there is a frauditor who has a protective order. The police, it's filed because of the police. He went after a police officer and into their house.
Oh, yikes.
So they have an emergency protective order. Yeah, they have an EPO against him. And people were trying to argue last night that does not bar him from owning a firearm.
No, but it gets him a J status.
No, it does bar you. Texas and Indiana and Illinois, you may not own because their constitution, you can't own it.
Well,
cannot own or carry a firearm.
I'm Arkansas, Missouri, and Florida.
It doesn't matter. ATF still bars while there's a protective order. You're a prohibited person according to ATF. If you are, the difference is, so ATF does because you're considered a prohibited person. It's just the only caveat to it with the protected person status that varies state by state is if you have to turn your firearms over, dependent on why there's a protective order. Do you have to turn them over to it?
I heard it backwards. I heard it that if you had a protective order against somebody else, you had to give up your own personal firearms. I heard it back.
No, it's the other way. Yeah, but in some states, you have to turn them over. Now, what I can say is, so Cookie, so this is kind of what I'm addressing. So it used to be that the ATF allowed for you to turn your firearms over to a family member, right? But the ATF, and I did cover this about a year ago, the ATF came out and changed that. You are no longer, if you are subject to a surrender of firearms order, be it via red flag, or because of what you did to get that protective order or whatever, for your prohibited person status, you now have to turn it over to someone with an FFL or police. You may no longer WTF, my computer's having issues. You may no longer turn it over to a family member because too many family members were just handing it back. So, hold on. Let me say my highs really quick before I forget. So, hey, Pokey, Navy Tex, Cookie, Danny, Glenn, and thank you, the super chat very much, Glenn. J. Michael, we're glad to see you back. Scotto, my love in California. So you got C. Allen, Ben, Patty, of course. Just making sure I don't miss anybody. J Lo, hey. Frauditor Watch. Okay, there we go.
Don't forget our Navy techs.
I got Navy techs. I was looking. I didn't know if Thomas was in here yet. I
haven't seen Thomas.
No, I was.
I'm waiting for
was
Crocker to send a link to Boom. Boom wants in.
Yeah, Pokey. I know. I'm very close to the West Virginia border. Yes, C. Allen. That was one of the reasons. That was one of the things that was cited as to why ATF changed law. So while I do have an FFL, I will not hold weapons. It is a giant pain in the ass to do as an FFL if you're holding it for a protected person. So I won't.
Okay, make sure you shove it in there as hard as you can, dude. Oh, but at least you shut the mailbox. Good deal.
So, Frauder Watch, FFL. I have my federal firearms license. FFL, not FFL. So, Frauditor Watch, are you familiar with an FFL is? J-Lo. Pokey, the lovely Patty gifted you with that membership. Either Patty or McWrench. Okay, so Frauditor Watch, not necessarily yet. Let me explain. In the United States, there's something called your FFL, which is a federal firearms license. There is also something called a Class 3 tax stamp. Now, if you want to own certain weapons in the United States, those being SBR, which are short barrel rifles, or if you'd like to own a quote-unquote silencer / suppressor. Yeah, I got that Navy text. Thank you, darling. A suppressor, short barrel rifle, certain other weapons, you need to have a Class 3 tax stamp, which is a giant pain in the behind to get and real expensive. In the United States, if you want to ship firearms, if you want to be able to own certain parts, like lowers for ARs, and if you want to be able to gunsmith and sell things and be paid, you have to have a federal firearms license. And that FFL, it's expensive, and there's a lot. You have to have it even just to gunsmith. There's a lot involved in it. It's very expensive. There's inspections, and it takes a while. So you're federally accountable. So in the U.S., it used to be if you were ordered to surrender your weapons because someone had a protection order against you, or you had been charged with a violent crime, something, you could turn your guns over to a family member to hold them. But then we had several instances where family members then gave the guns right back, and the original person went on a mass shooting or went and did something stupid. So now you have a choice. You can sell the firearm, surrender the firearm to the police to hold until you are no longer under prohibited person status if you are exonerated, or to somebody with a federal firearms license, the FFL, to hold because we are held to a different standard by the ATF, which is the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Regulatory Agency in the United States. So, FFL. It's expensive, it's a pain in the ass, and in all honesty, I don't know many FFLs that will hold weapons because it's a giant pain in the ass. And if anything happens, you're in trouble.
It's your giant pain in the ass.
Just the record keeping alone is annoying. They couldn't see that happening. We only won twice. Hand over firearms, not to the state police. Yeah, no problem, Predator Watch. Glad to explain any day. Okay, so let's cover some of this stupid. Did you send that to Boom, Croc?
Yeah, I've been back and forth. Okay. Yep. She found it.
Okay.
Took her.
We are going to cover two things about Maryland. The first article about Maryland that I'm going to read to everybody. I will tell you, Ben, I will get that. I can answer you that in a second. Actually, you know what? I'll answer that first, Ben. If a police officer has a PPO against them, they are not allowed to work. Not only are they not, they can't own, they're prohibited to, they are put on administrative leave. Because here in Pennsylvania, it's Act 120. But everybody, to be a police officer, you have to have your post POLST certification, and that's generally, or the MOPATAC, which is the MPOTC, which is the police officer training certification or municipal police training certification. You have to have one of the two, and you can't be a prohibited person, so that gets suspended. So you can't work as a cop. You'd be on desk duty with no weapon, and you can't have your ones at home. Same thing. It doesn't change, but your job does change because then they suspend you from your job.
Desk duty.
So, not even. Some places you can't even do desk duty. Some places it's just suspension without pay. So, I'm going to read something about the Maryland gun laws that are changing. Yes, I know there has been an update since this. I have the update, and we are going to do that right after I cover this, okay? So I just want to get that one out. Okay, so here we go. Maryland's gun policy is about to change drastically. Go Maryland. October 1st, we'll see new laws regulating guns, where to carry them, and how to store them as Maryland continues to grapple with the U.S. Supreme Court decision that upended the state's former rules. There have already been challenges to these policies from people who see them as too restrictive. Senate Bill 1, sponsored by State Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee Vice Chair Jeff. We're going with Jeff. A Democrat from Montgomery County, will go into effect Sunday. The law prohibits people with a concealed carry permit from bringing firearms into public and private elementary, middle, or high schools, healthcare facilities, buildings owned or leased by the state or local government, public or private university buildings, active polling places, electrical plants or electrical storage facilities, gas plants, nuclear power facilities, stadiums, museums, racetracks, video lottery facilities, venues that serve alcohol or cannabis for on-site consumption, and private property unless the owner has given permission to do so. Gun control advocates celebrate the legislation made by Maryland's majority Democratic General Assembly. We're grateful that the General Assembly is a gun sense majority. Melissa Ladd, a campaign leader for the Maryland chapter of, oh my God, I'm about to hiss, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. Oh God, I hate these people so much. Ladd called the organization's work, the legislature, the fast and furious year since Supreme Court ruled Maryland's concealed carry gun policy unconstitutional, a whirlwind. Not everyone's thrilled with the legislature response. One of the two federal lawsuits brought in opposition was done on behalf of the Maryland State Rifle and Pistol Association, which is the state affiliate of the NRA, and Susan Warner Kipke, the owner of a gun storage facility and wife of Republican Anne Arundel County delegate Nick Kipke. Plaintiffs in the case Kipke et al. Versus Moore et al. Are suing Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat, and Maryland State Police Superintendent Roland Butler, alleging Senate Bill 1 violates the Second Amendment by unconstitutionally restricting where Marylanders with concealed carry permits can take their firearms. The second lawsuit, Novotny et al., was filed on behalf of Catherine Novotny, Sue Burke, and Esther Rosberg, as well as the Guns Rights Organization, Maryland Shall Issue, the Second Amendment Foundation, and the FPC. A lawsuit filed against Moore and Butler, the state's attorneys from Baltimore City and Baltimore and Hartford County, Whitefield, the secretary of the DOT, and Josh Kurtz, the DNR person, challenges State Bill 1's prohibition on carrying firearms in more specific locations, healthcare facilities, museums, establishments licensed to serve alcohol for on-site consumption, and privately owned buildings that are open to the public. The cases were combined in mid-July. In 2008, Heller was DC versus Heller ruled Second Amendment protects an individual right to have a handgun for the purpose of self-defense, but majority opinion clarified the ruling was not to disrupt existing policies, for example, like the prohibition of guns in sensitive places. But here we go in the 2022 decision, New York State Rifle and Pistol versus Bruin. Go Bruin and Heller, gotta love them. The Supreme Court overturned the New York guns licensing policy, which required that people applying for permits to carry guns in public demonstrate proper costs just to successfully receive a permit. The decision disrupted the licensing process in Maryland, California, Hawaii, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, all of whom have had similar policies that are unconstitutional. Right here, over here, unconstitutional. According to a memo published this summer by Giffords, an anti-gun violence organization, there have been more than 450 court decisions analyzing the 2022 Bruin decision and Second Amendment challenges. Maryland's now stricken policy required applicants to provide a legal established reason for their desire to carry. This was known as the good and substantial reason. Following the 6-3 Supreme Court ruling, former Governor Larry Hogan called on the Maryland State Police to suspend the good and substantial reason standard, causing an influx of applications. Under the 2022 Supreme Court opinion, states can only prohibit guns only in places analogous to those that were deemed sensitive when the Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791, like courthouses, polling places, and legislative buildings. Plaintiff in the case against Moore alleged that many of the places deemed sensitive in the new law, including schools, bars, and places of worship, existed at the time of the founding of the United States but didn't have firearm prohibitions and therefore cannot be deemed sensitive. The case is ongoing. Kirk Evans, an attorney and the president of U.S. Law Shield, told the Baltimore Sun that, prohibitions are applicable in places analogous to those deemed sensitive, and it didn't go, back that far to tell us exactly why it deemed those sensitive. The big thing is it makes it much more palatable under the Constitution. Concealed carry permits and storage. Another law going to effect Sunday limits who's eligible to receive a permit. Under the multifaceted House Bill 824, sponsored by the judiciary by Luke Kiplinger, idiot. Applicants to receive a concealed carry permit must be 21 or a member of the military. They cannot be on supervised probation for DUI, violating a protective order, any crime punishable by a year in prison. Applicants also cannot have a history of violence against themselves or others, been involuntarily committed for more than 30 consecutive days, or be subject to a protective order. I just talked about that last night. Before they receive a permit, MSP has to perform an investigation. MSP has the ability to revoke. That's stupid. And the law is going to increase the penalties for wearing, carrying, and transporting guns. The storage policy is going to change. Also, which would mean anyone who stores and leaves a loaded firearm where they know or should know, have reasonably known that it would be accessible to anyone under 18 is in violation of a misdemeanor punishable by a $1,000 fine. Anyone convicted of improper storage may not possess a firearm for 5 years. Cool. So, ouch. We have all these... What?
5 years
if you violate.
Ban for, quote, improper storage. The question becomes, how is improper storage defined under the law?
Improper storage is defined that a minor or prohibited person can become in possession of a loaded firearm. AKA, you don't have it in a safe, you just have it in a nightstand drawer. It has to be in a locked, secured place. You just can't put it on the top shelf in the closet thinking your kid can't reach it. So there's that.
So Can't
Now,
Keep
what?
your better.
Hello, my loving sister. How are you?
Hola, I am ready to get educated, talking
Did
about
you-
a whole bunch of...
Did you not hear me reading the Maryland is stupid part?
I did.
Okay, yeah, we're going to keep going. GMK, I will get that momentarily. And I have read Heller. And I've read the Dissent in Heller many, many times. It's one of the fun things about being a gun expert. So now here's the slightest bit of anything that I can hold on to with any kind of hope. Here we go. A federal judge has blocked part of the law already.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, federal judge in Maryland on Friday temporarily blocked part of the law that restricts where gun owners can carry. And this is going to hurt for some. U.S. District Judge George Russell, an Obama appointee, ruled the state can't ban guns in places where alcohol is sold on private property without permission of the owner or at a public demonstration. Legislation is set to take effect Sunday. The judge's ruling came after the law, which was a response to the 2022 Supreme Court decision that ended a requirement to show a need for license to carry a concealed gun in public and led to more permits, was challenged by the NRA, FPC, and the state gun rights groups. Russell kept the bans on areas that could be considered sensitive, like schools, museums, state parks, and mass transit. He based his decision on the 2022 Supreme Court ruling that limited New York gun legislation and said the judges need to look into historical legislation on gun restrictions for guidance. While the NRA is pleased with the partial win, we're going to continue our challenges to the other so-called sensitive places that the court declined to enjoin, the NRA said. Maryland governor said his administration remains committed to working vigorously with the state legislature, community leaders, and all advocates to continue to bring down the scourge of gun violence. Good for you. You used your thesaurus words today. So, here's the thing. The original issue was not where people are carrying guns, right? It was the fact that it was not a shall issue situation. You had to go to them and prove why. Hey, Ron, how are you, darling? You had to go and prove to them, and they were going to deny pretty much everybody. Whatever.
Unless they were on some sort of an approved list. Yes, this person agrees with us, and
right,
all of the other crap.
So they've already struck part of it down, which is good. Do I think it's going to stand? No. New York's isn't going to stand. So, the problem is, and I've said this, and I've shouted it from rooftops, and I think Boom has probably had to hear me say this 804 million times. If you are willing to walk into a school and shoot 25 people, you don't give a rat's behind
whether or not
you're allowed it's a prohibited place or not.
But the sign says gun-free zone. Who would
the
do
sign
something
says gun-free
like
zone? Right. The sign that says gun-free zone is bigger, scarier, and a bigger deterrent than capital punishment and capital murder charges.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to need someone to make it make sense. Like, if you don't care and you're willing to go murder a bunch of children, why would you care if you're not allowed to legally carry it there? Because, the felony you're about to commit is a much higher charged felony.
Yep.
Right?
But there's a sign.
Yeah, those
signs.
Every law is intended to reduce harm, not eliminate it. Right, GMK, but unfortunately, in no way is saying that's a prohibited place going to deter anybody.
Well,
if anything, all it is going to do is prevent someone that could have stopped something from taking action.
Right.
Because the only way to stop somebody that is armed is with somebody else that is armed. And I am not just saying this as a gun rights enthusiast. I am not just saying this as a firearms expert. I am saying this as a public safety professional who has worked not only a school shooting, but a school stabbing and several firearms, quote unquote, massacres. The only way to stop things, to stop a bad guy with a gun, is a good guy with a gun, as cliche as it sounds.
Yep.
That's the only thing. If you are in a mindset that you want to do it, you're going to do it without caring. End of discussion. So, before I get on to the stupid in California, let me look at my questions. Yeah, GMK, yeah, laws intended to reduce harm, but again, nobody cares. Like, the people that are doing this could care less. Frauditor Watch, let's see. Excuse my naivete. Okay, Frauditor Watch, two things. One, you don't need to say, excuse my naivete. One of the things I have always said and that I've said about this channel is, you need, there aren't stupid questions here, and I'm not going to look down on anybody for asking questions. Part of the reason I started this channel was because gun YouTube and gun talk and gun everything can be very bros club, and anybody that asks a question, they are made to feel dumb. Everybody starts somewhere, so I'm here to educate. So never feel like, don't apologize. I'm literally here to educate. That's my whole purpose of this channel. One of them. But doesn't mean that if I have a CCW in Maryland, I can enter your private home and I don't need permission from you to carry. Opal, yes, I need you to like. And Croc, you're supposed to be doing this, but yes, please like, subscribe, and share, guys. Gotta help me out here. The algorithm likes to suppress any firearms channels.
Do it or else.
Yes, I will
Do
subject
please,
you
do
to.
please pay attention to Nightbot.
If you don't do it, we're gonna hang a no candy allowed sign on your house, and then you can't eat candy there anymore because we established signs work.
Yeah.
And go ahead,
Oh my
Joel,
god,
like,
Boom, you just made me spit tea.
Yeah.
so technically, Frauditor Watch, no, you don't need permission to carry a concealed weapon going into somebody's house. Now, what I will say is, it's kind of rude if you know someone's like seriously against it, but it's not going to stop me. I carry concealed all the time. Here's the thing, and I carry concealed into restaurants, and I do it into places like Starbucks and places. When I say this, please remember, all firearms laws vary state by state. So what is legal in my state might not be legal in yours. And very soon, we're not going to have that discussion because I have done videos for all 50 states. I'm just finishing setting them, getting them up rendered, covering the laws. But always double check. So in Pennsylvania, you go to a Starbucks that says like no firearms, or you go into Buffalo Wild Wings that says no firearms. They can't do anything about it if you're carrying concealed. Now, if they see that you're carrying because you're printing, we're not an open carry state. Well, sort of, but we're not even going to go into that. If you go onto private property or into somebody's house and you are carrying, and they say you need to leave,
Then you need to leave.
you need to leave. Otherwise, it's a felony trespass. Leave immediately, because you can get in big trouble, and that's when you having the firearm becomes a big issue. Just leave if you're in a place. But I'm not going to take my firearm out of its holster when I go into Starbucks to get my coffee with the micro and lock it into the safe in my car. Not going to happen. Hold on. So, yes, they can carry it into your house. If you tell them to get the F out and they won't, then it's felony trespass. You just criminally trespass them. And you have the right to. But generally you should know, kind. GMK, you disagree. Some gun control laws are worse or less effective than others, but virtually everyone will reduce harm. while I understand what you're disagreeing with, GMK. And I GMK, if you ever GMK, would you like to get up with and join me on a panel one day to discuss gun laws? Because you know what, I would love to have you discuss them with me. And the effectiveness, because I've actually done studies and I've looked at states that have far stricter and countries that have far stricter gun control than the U.S. and the effect that the laws have on crime. And I'm not just using random statistics. I have the numbers so you can do the math yourself and see it's not manipulated. Hey, Papa, I'm glad you're here. I haven't been to California yet. California's coming for you.
If
I'm
like I
doing
can
it.
interject something.
Of course, you're my sister. You're allowed to.
So like here, I think education and stuff is a big factor of it. Whenever you turn 16 or your kid turns 16, you're not just going to give them car keys and be like, have fun, go run wild. You like teach them and train them to drive that vehicle. You teach them a responsibility. Explain the dangers, the pros, the cons, etc., etc. Like, I feel like gun violence would be significantly like better if there was like more education. If instead of, so like when I hear gun laws, I think make it like more of an educational process to get your permit for it rather than, oh, no guns allowed.
See, I said the same
like a
thing.
rational, like, middle ground.
So, I will, fraud or watch, yes, gun laws only affect the honest, not the criminal. So I'm going to address that one, you two, for a second. I both agree and disagree. What you need to remember is I have always said, do not child-proof your guns. Gun-proof your children. Okay? Because there's no such thing as being able to child-proof everything. And your child could run into a weapon in someone else's house, right? And much like they have shown that, we're going to take this to a whole other realm of words I'm going to get annoyed, YouTube's going to get mad at me for. Abstinence only education did absolutely nothing for the teenage birth rate.
Nope.
So it's essentially the same thing with guns. People trying to essentially, abstinence only, not teach people how to, own and use and be around firearms safely. Just saying no. You have the same problem. You're not teaching people about safe sex. You're just saying don't have sex at all. So then when somebody violates that, you end up with teenage pregnancy. So I kind of equate them to the same thing. So you don't child-proof your guns. You gun-proof your kids. My littles, they know. They've seen my weapons. They know where they are. They can't get to them because I keep things locked up. But I mean, even when I'm carrying, they will not touch them. They know not to touch them. They know not to touch them at somebody else's house. They know what is safe and what is not. And we have sat and talked about why you don't pick up a gun. Now, I might be the crazy parent. Yeah, you gun-proof the child. You don't child-proof the gun, Ben. Exactly what I'm saying.
Is there even a way to child-proof the gun?
Well, that's
much more clever than people think.
That's one of the arguments with the Maryland. What Maryland is trying to do is say you have to child-proof guns by locking them in safes that children can't access.
Nature always finds a way. Like that child, there will be, regardless of how well you lock it up, there's always going to be a case where that doesn't work.
Well, if we look at the 6-year-old that shot the teacher in Virginia, the parent had a trigger lock on it and it was in the top of a closet. It didn't do anything. They were able to remove the trigger. Okay? You can't. You need to teach them why we don't touch guns and anything. And I will admit I'm the crazy parent right here. my children are not allowed to own toy weapons. Yes, they have Nerf ones, but they're not allowed to shoot each other. They can shoot stationary things and targets and whatever. I do not let them shoot each other. I also do not allow pellet guns, plastic guns with the orange tip, anything, because if you allow your child to play with a pellet gun or play with a gun that looks real, it is statistically shown your child is at a much higher likelihood to pick up a real firearm.
Oh, so that's like why you do that?
Yes.
That's like pretty smart. I'm not gonna lie.
But I mean, it's statistically shown. If kids have pellet guns that look just like a SIG, just as an orange tip, they will pick up a regular one because they're used to it just being a pellet gun or paint or whatever. And so I don't allow those because guns are not toys. And even if they make quote unquote toy guns, I do not want that association in my small people's heads.
Yeah, that wouldn't end well.
And in regards to the education, boom, crock. Some states do require it. Some states require you to take a class.
Which I don't object to.
I do for one reason. Because they're stupid. The problem is the quote-unquote classes that you're required to take, and like some states require one trip to the range with an instructor, all people do is try to find ways to circumvent them and find online classes. It doesn't actually work.
Yeah, but you can't take an online class for a driving exam.
But you can take an online class to get the certificate in all of those states, pretty much.
Well, they should have like a more thorough test or something, maybe.
But I'm just saying, in general, it's really hard when you start legislating that you need to have education for your concealed carry permit, and then you run up against people arguing Second Amendment rule. It gets sticky. But I always advise people to take a class. The reason I have my channel, and I mean, you guys hear me when you watch my gun teardowns. I go through safety rules. I show things. I explain things. I pull up the news and explain, what went wrong in certain situations when there's gun violence. I go through statistics and crime rates and why you should carry, shouldn't carry, what gun is best for what situation, to bring knowledge, because it's important. But you've got to remember, while that's going to help some, it's not going to help all.
Well, a recertification every so often might not be amiss. Continuing education? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that corrects the problem.
Fraud Order Watch. Procedure in Australia: apply for license, must have reason. Do a gun course for that class of weapon. If a handgun, you must be a member of a club, must install gun safe, and inspect by LEO anytime. So the issue that you have with that is, there's a couple, but Fraud Order Watch, there's a gentleman, and Croc can put the link, called the Lock-Picking Lawyer on YouTube. He literally picks the lock to almost every gun safe, and he shows you how easy it is. A lot of them you can do with a credit card and open them. So the gun safe part can be problematic because they're fairly easy to dismantle. Yes, they've tried coming out.
It would depend on the safe, though, because there.
No, but these are like the bedside gun safes. I'm not talking the big ones. He shows that the little safes. What I will say is, yes, they have tried, like, you have to have a certain bracelet on or a biometric this. They've tried to make smart weapons. They don't really work. I personally, I have most of my weapons in several, and Boom can attest, very large safes. Very heavy, very large safes. But, what I do carry, I have locked in a biometric safe. And it's where small people can't get to it. Hey, Raven.
All right. Thanks in the chat.
But GMK, I mean, you said we don't need data from other countries. We have plenty of data from the US. Yeah, we do have plenty of data from the US, but actually we do need to look at the data from other countries in general, because even if we look at the data from state to state, it doesn't give us quite the right picture. And we can go through all of that. I have no problem covering that stuff at all. Raven, it's good to see you, honey. Yes, it is good data, Ben. But again, like I said, we will cover gun safety laws a different day, because right now we need to cover this, because this is what Stephanie is going to have Loki's going to have an absolute fucking aneurysm over.
I mean, we could look at the UK, their gun
Hold
bans.
on.
I mean,
Here
how's
we
that
go.
work?
Welcome to this dipshit.
Oh, boy.
California governor signs gun control measures into law, including the nation's first state tax on firearms and ammunition. If you live in California, this is your sign. Move.
Wait, so they're
Hold on. Just let me read, Boo. You're gonna die.
no, please no.
GMK, you're not GMK, darling. You're not hijacking anything. California Governor Gavin Newsome signed a series of gun control measures into law Tuesday, impacting where Californians can legally carry weapons and levying the nation's first state tax on firearms and ammunition, prompting at least one lawsuit and likely future legal challenges from gun rights advocates. Sir, you have no idea the Pandora box you just kicked open. The legislation places an 11% excise tax on firearms and ammunition sold by gun manufacturers and dealers in the state, which officials say will fund school safety and violence reduction measures. That's on top of the nation's existing 10% to 11% federal tax on guns and ammunition, doubling the tax in California. Sir, no. Just no. The legislation also bans the concealed carrying of a gun in certain sensitive places, including educational institutions, parks, sporting events, and sets the minimum age to obtain a concealed carry permit at 21. It also strengthens background checks for people seeking firearms permits. Great.
Can I ask a question?
You can, and then I'm going to keep going. So, I mean, I don't know if you just want to wait.
This 11% tax.
Yeah.
How does this stop people from 3D printing functioning guns and using those for gun violence?
Oh, they already made those illegal, didn't you hear?
Oh, those are already illegal.
So nobody does it. Okay, got it.
Yeah. We can cover 3D printing. Don't worry, I got you. We'll cover that one on a different day.
Dear God.
Another new measure will require the micro-stamping. Oh, this is, my brain's already hurting. Another new measure will require the micro-stamping of all semi-automatic firearms sold in or transferred to California by 2028. Micro-stamping involves engraving a unique identifier onto the firing pin of a weapon, which is stamped on bullet shell casings when the gun is fired, making it easier for investigators to tie shell casings recovered at crime scenes to specific guns involved. In a news release about the new legislation, Newsome cited shootings across the country that left at least 104 people dead over the 72 hours prior to the signing. Nationwide, there have been 519 mass shootings so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive, at least 36 of which were in California. Maybe let's look at what's wrong with California, including those in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay, which left 18 people dead. Newsome isn't the only Democratic governor taking action to restrict the carrying of weapons. Earlier this month, I'm sorry, Papa, I love you, but I'm sorry. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announced an emergency order suspending the right to carry firearms in most public places around Albuquerque following a spat of gun violence. The ban, which was implemented through a public health order rather than legislation, faced immediate backlash from both gun rights and gun control supporters.
Well, gun control supporters said that didn't go far enough.
I got it. Hold on. Lujan Grisham narrowed the scope of the order after it faced several legal challenges. I'm going to point out that the biggest legal challenge was the fact that the state district attorney went, "Nah, fam, that violates the Second Amendment. I'm not upholding it. You're an idiot." Literally. No. During the signing ceremony, Newsom slammed last year's landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision expanding gun rights. It's not all Heller and Bruin, everybody. Expanding gun rights and criticized lower circuit courts that have since overturned gun control measures. That ruling up, here we go. What did I just say? New York State Rifle and Pistol v. Bruin changed the framework judges must use to review gun regulations and determined that modern-day laws restricting gun ownership were only constitutional if similar regulations were in place when the Constitution was drafted. This bill follows the blueprint of Bruin. California Attorney General Rob Bonita insisted Tuesday. No, it doesn't, you idiot. Sorry, interjection by Loki having a seizure. It's designed to comply with the dictates of Bruin and keep us safe here in California. Right. But gun rights groups have criticized the designation of areas prohibiting the concealed carry of firearms, claiming such restrictive measures run counter to the Supreme Court's decision. The FPC, a group in support of gun rights, announced it filed a lawsuit Tuesday challenging that portion of the legislation. SB 2 restricts where persons with license to carry a concealed weapon may legally exercise their constitutional right to wear, carry, or transport firearms, and it does so in ways that are fundamentally inconsistent with the Second Amendment and Supreme Court's decision in Bruin. The Second Amendment does not tolerate these restrictions. This court should enter judgment enjoining their enforcement and declaring them unconstitutional. Newsom acknowledged the uphill battle gun safety advocates are facing with the majority conservative high court. The point is pretty damn obvious to anyone paying attention. It's great what we're doing, but it's not enough, said Newsom. We know what we're up against. We need to be more clear. No, you don't know jack shit, Governor Newsom. You're an idiot. An absolute idiot. So, give me 1 second. I want to catch up on that I missed. Hey, Raven. Hello, Fraud It. Yeah, Wrangler. I was just talking about guns on your channel. Now I'm talking about them on mine, of course. How are you doing? Tell Kimmy hi. And of course, Opal. Papa. Hi, Papa.
Danny's here.
Wrangler. Yeah, I said hi to Danny earlier. Let's see who else we have. Everybody. Wrangler, I'll catch you over on yours in a few. So, here's the thing. And Danny, yeah, are people driving into Nevada? In theory, but the problem is California actually runs border checks and border checkpoints. And they have the restrictions against certain capacity weapons, right? Here's the problem. You can't do this. You're going to tax the shit out of it? Okay, there's a reason everybody's leaving your state. You are not going to stop gun violence by doing this and enacting these things. Hey, Raven. You're not. Again, it takes a good person with a gun to stop a bad person with a gun. And to the first person that says, but the children, I stood there outside of high school on the roof of an SUV with a megaphone at a school violence incident. I have worked a school shooting. I have worked massacres. I can tell you, nobody gives a shit about it being legal when they want to go do that. Raven, let me scroll up and check it in 1 second, darling. Nobody cares. And restricting, you can't. There's the Second Amendment you can't infringe on. And here's where I like to point this out. Even if you don't like guns, and there's people, we have members of the channel that are not gun fans, but they enjoy coming here because we talk about it. We have adult discussions about guns and firearms and stuff. And we have room to disagree and dissent, and I don't ban that, right? And I encourage dialogue on it and why. And, we've changed people's minds when they've seen things through a different lens. When you when you chip away or try to enjoin or try to narrow an amendment like the Second Amendment, it doesn't make it a far reach that we can then chip away at your First Amendment rights, your Fifth Amendment. It is a slippery slope once you start infringing on any right, whether you agree with the right or not. So regardless of if you are pro-gun or not, pro-Second Amendment or not, you should support the protection of Second Amendment rights. Because if they can chip away at that, that just opens the door to going after other rights of yours. So you need to remember, necessary evils. Let me scroll up real quick. If anyone, while I look for Raven's comment, if you guys want to comment, feel free to. So we don't have our. Boom. What do you think? Boom. You know where I've been stuck.
How does giving the politicians more money keep anything more safe? Like that's what I'm curious about. How does making people pay more for guns that they're buying through legal means do anything other than get the California state more money?
So Raven, I'm assuming this, and yet in campaign get together yesterday, Trump urged people to start shooting thieves in California. Here's the thing. I don't actually disagree with him. The problem is California, Pennsylvania, pretty much any major state, but especially like now that Chicago's eliminated freaking cash bail, these people are back out on the street before I can finish my paperwork.
Oh, here's a good one for you.
Hold on, just give me 1 second.
Okay.
You're eliminating cash bail. You're putting these people back out on the street who don't give a flying F about law and about if it's illegal. They've just shown it to you, and you're putting them back on the street to do it again. So what is going to stop them? Sure as shit not somebody throwing holy water at them screaming, "No, bad, we can't have a gun here." Like, that's not going to do anything. Me drawing a weapon and pointing it at them, they're at least going to think twice. And if I'm doing it, they're probably going to be on the ground because I'm not waiting. I'm not holding you at gunpoint if I'm not at work. But, you have to, California and people need to understand, you have these shootings and these instances, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, why are there so many school shootings?" I can say this with 100% certainty because I was there. I read the suicide note of the gentleman at the school shooting that I worked when I first became a paramedic. He chose an Amish schoolhouse because he knew nobody would have a gun. He knew there was literally no deterrent to what he was doing. He knew the amount of time it would take for somebody to respond. He could get done with what he wanted to do. You enforce gun-free zones, and all you're doing is highlighting a place for some bad guy with a gun who wants to go kill people or kids or whatever to go to, because they know they don't have to worry about opposition. And that's problematic. Let's see what else. Hold on. Opal's not a gun dragon. Trained humans should have guns, yeah. Cookie's correct. Let's see. Ben, and I am grateful you had your Second Amendment rights when people broke the law. Navy Tech's right. The Second Amendment secures your first. Cookiemon. So banning the firearms from people with licenses, constant monitoring of said people is definitely going to help stop the people who ignore the laws and penalties. That would be my point exactly. Fredder Watch. I think the 2A needs updating to the 21st century, and I wish we had something like the 2A here in Australia. Predator Watch, that's the problem. It does need updating, right? But in the US, you have something called. Oh, hold on. Okay, that was great. You have something called textualists and you have something called originalists. So now you have two groups of people that are evaluating the amendments. And are we going strictly on the words, which are, or are we going on the spirit? And that's the legal argument we have with when they challenge anything constitutionally. So it needs updating, but there's some other issues that kind of go around that. Let's see. Hold on, Raven. Raven, your issue is civilians should not be allowed to have military weapons. How? I need to know what your definition of that is, Raven. GMK. 2A rights are manufactured mumbo jumbo per Stevens, the most impartial justice in modern history. GMK, I'm going to disagree with you. You have a right to bear arms. And I will gladly, GMK, you are not hijacking anything, and I personally am totally cool with having an open discussion on the topic. Email me and we can sit here and have a discussion on it. I am open to it. I have no problems discussing this. Let's see. Hey Raz. Okay, so Raven.
There's that email address for you.
Some of those are not military weapons. Some of them are not. Some of those weapons aren't legal. Anyways. But an M16 is the same as an AR.
AR-15.
AR-15. They're the same. An Uzi is not a U.S. military weapon. You can't. Semi-automatic weapons are not military weapons.
Well, at least not strictly. But what I was going to say earlier.
Hold on, give me 1 second. I know it's an easy statement. It's far from easy to implement. Yeah, no, Predator Watch, but it's a great statement and it's a great way to. It's a great thing to discuss. Raven, the MAC 1011, Tech 5, and Uzi are submachine guns. Right, but you can't legally own them.
Not unless they've been modified.
Yeah, you cannot own them.
No?
Well, I mean, you can with heavy modification. But even so, Raven, you cannot own a fully automatic anything in the United States at all under ATF regulation. And some of the other ones that people are talking about, you have to have a Class 3 stamp for. But you cannot own a fully automatic weapon. It is against the ATF regulation. Uzi is not the current Israeli military. Sure, Navy techs, we can discuss how AR stands for assault rifle instead of Armalite rifle. Sure, anytime. Let's go. Uzi was originally an Israeli gun. They don't use them. I have citizenship, I know. I have family in the Israeli military. I go there all the time. Okay. And in all honesty, I will say, I would almost rather give somebody an automatic weapon than a semi, because I can tell you the ability to control it. There's a reason with automatic weapons we call it spray and pray.
Yup.
The first 3 shots may be on target. The rest of it's going to be in the ceiling.
Or a hazard for low-flying aircraft.
And you're going to melt the barrel. So, but, not current, never survive. Yeah, it's not current, but you can't own them.
Okay. So, back to the tax thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Has anybody checked the laws on shoplifting in most chunks of California, in which this is actually going to make any difference? An 11% tax is not going to be paid by the criminals who are going to go in and shoplift all the ammo that they can get their grubby little hands on, because stealing $1,000 worth of ammo is kind of hard.
But that's where you're wrong, because stealing is against the law, so nobody would ever do it, right?
Well, that's just it. They in large parts of Western California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and a number of other places in between, it's effectively decriminalized unless you run off with more than $1,000 worth of merchandise.
Ben?
They're not even going to bother investigating.
Ben? You don't use them to make love, but I do know certain groups of people that might make love to the rifle. So just be careful. Ow. What? No. Just saying.
Hey, no kink shaming, Croco.
But yes, no.
Imagining all could go wrong with that.
Since most people here already know this, but I'm going to say it for those in the back, AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, the original maker. But
are most of those made by Colt these days?
So civilians shouldn't have assault style rifles. Any rifle is technically an assault. But I would like to point out that I would not worry about some of that. Okay? Some of that is not your biggest problem. Hey. Croc and Boom, comment for a second. I got to pull up a picture real quick.
Wait, did you say combat? Am I fighting Croco?
No, I said comment.
Oh, okay.
No, you're not. I mean, if you want to fight
1v1 IRL.
Oh, I'm videotaping that and putting it on the internet. I'm making money. That's a pay-per-view, and we're setting up bets.
Can I bet on myself?
I mean, if you want to lose money.
No. We'd have the other problem of actually having the money to get us in the same place in the first place. So,
No, I can bring her.
Well, she can just drive to your house.
But I don't know. I just think it's weird that nobody just seems to think just because you add more regulation and rules and this and that, it's not going to deter people that are already breaking the fucking law.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the thing with the extra tax.
Well, even if you manage to set up a barrier around the country where guns just disintegrate if you bring them in and no guns exist, people are still going to find out ways to hurt and kill each other with greater and greater efficiency. I mean, in the UK, from what I hear, people just knock on your door, and if you open it, they'll stab you for literally no reason.
Okay.
It's
the most common murder weapon in Japan right now is a knife, and anybody with the know-how can make a gun.
Okay, so here's the thing, Raven. Cool, you're a U.S. infantry vet. I'm married to a veteran. And yeah, it's easy to modify. I can do it with a C-shaped piece of plastic, and in some weapons, I can do it with a paperclip. I'm a gunsmith. I know. But I'm not worried about so-called military weapons to a degree. Because I can tell you I am more effective, without them. it's still illegal. But again, you don't think people should have those military weapons? They don't have military weapons. They have ones that can be modified. And then when you modify it, it's illegal. So we're still running into, you're trying to regulate something and make it illegal when the people don't care that it's illegal. But I do have to show you guys this. I saw this. I gotta give the man props.
Although, just as a side note,
Guys, hold on.
Japan has the most-
Hold on. You ready? Make sure we,
Bracing myself.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
you ready?
Oh man, he is so cool.
Man, if he was any cooler,
He'd be wearing a fedora.
Okay, then.
I'm sorry. I have to give my man Elon points. That's a lot of recoil. But B, where he's got his first hand, like his front hand, that's hot as fuck. I burned myself. I have a burn scar on my arm from right there.
That's
Well, I'm
why-
giving the man points. I saw that. I amazing disgrace. Yeah, and that's the thing. They don't enforce the laws that we have. We don't enforce lots of laws, and people that are going to violate the law anyways don't care.
See, as concurrent with that, Japan has some of the strictest gun laws on the planet that didn't help Shinzo Abe, because some dude made the guy that killed him made the gun in his apartment, took it out there and
Yeah,
shot it.
Yes, it's a zip gun, and Donut Operator remade it, and then almost got him. I believe it was Donut Operator, and then got himself suspended off YouTube over it
Ooh,
because he essentially taught people how to make an IED. But Opal, I own that exact rifle. I dare you to come take it from me. Brandon, amazing disgrace. It wasn't Brandon that did it. It wasn't Brandon Brandon laughed at it. It wasn't Brandon that showed how to make it. It was someone else. I think it was Donut Operator. Yeah, Fredder Watch, hold my beer and watch this. Yeah, that's pretty much what that is. I've done it, and I can. He's not holding the naked barrel, but he is holding right where some of the porting for the gas is coming out, and I can tell you it is real hot right there. And that's from experience. But I mean, I can do the math, but the amount of recoil coming out, firing from the hip isn't easy. I will also point out that he probably couldn't hit the broadside of a barn firing that from the hip like he did. Was it Brandon? Okay, yeah, he almost killed himself. Angry cop. Oh yeah, everybody mocks him for that. You want to see what the actual load is? I have thoughts about the amount. Cookiemon, I will do another stream, and I will break out all the math and the recoil for you. And I will even break out, I have the tables of recoil for all the different calibers based off of the weight. We can. Yeah, no, Predator Watch, he's still on the video, and then they got a 7-day suspension.
Gosh, I love Cookiemon's name. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, they're still on YouTube. The person got a 7-day suspension for teaching people how to make a freaking pipe bomb, essentially. Yeah, they were like, no, what we're not doing is teaching everybody how to make a pipe bomb.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
Now, the next story I'm going to bring up, guys, this literally is why I said, do not child-proof your gun. Gun-proof your kids. 3-year-old twins are shot after finding a gun. Florence County, South Carolina, twin toddlers were recovering after accidentally shooting themselves over the weekend. Deputies were called to the hospital on Saturday for twin 3-year-olds with gunshot wounds. One was shot in the thigh, other was shot in the foot. Investigation showed the twins had found an unsecured gun while they were unsupervised at home. I have a bigger question as to why why 2 3-year-olds were unsupervised at home first, but okay.
Well, that would be a very good question.
Daquan Butler had custody of the kids, was driving to the hospital when he was involved in a crash. Oh, Jesus Christ. Not only can you not secure a gun, you can't drive? What? He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of unlawful conduct towards a child, with additional charges being possible. The twins are going to be okay. This. Yeah, this is why you gun-proof your kids.
But that would require paying attention to your children.
Well, yes, and being home when they're there.
Yes.
I mean, just saying. You might want to be
You're not wrong.
home when they're there. And then we have one more.
What? No, you're supposed to like just ignore them and then blame television, video games, and everything else that isn't you neglecting the hell out of your child. It's like proper parenting, right?
Yeah.
And then I actually have a follow-up to a video I did a while ago. So, New Year's Eve, an 8-year-old girl was killed. 7 months after 8-year-old Virginia girl was shot and killed while playing outside, authorities have made the arrests. This dude and these 2 idiots were indicted on multiple charges, including first-degree murder and firearm offenses. The little girl was shot in the chest, died at a local hospital. She was playing in the front yard. Witnesses saw the drive-by shooting, and they found them. The intent follows the bullet.
Yep.
It is the same reason we don't shoot guns up in the air.
Yeah, because what goes up must come down, and at escape velocity, you're going to do some, or at terminal velocity, you're going to do some real damage to your head or somebody else's.
Yeah. Pookie, yeah, you can gun-proof your kids. A 3-year-old, it's not going to work, right? But you also shouldn't be leaving twin 3-year-olds home alone at work.
You shouldn't leave 3-year-olds home alone anyway.
Strong glance.
Anubis, my guns are present around my kids. My kids have no temptation to use them. They've seen them. They know what not to touch. You know, the reality is, it doesn't matter if you don't want to have them around your children at your house. Statistically, most quote-unquote accidents happen at other people's houses. It's all good, Sandy.
You're okay, Sandy. And you're very welcome, CCW. Good to know that it's all working again.
Yeah. So, there is the gun stupid for the evening. So, I will open it for final questions from anybody. And then I'm going to say goodnight. I have a sick little person that needs me.
Still waiting on that answer on how making people pay more is going to do anything.
It's not.
How is a sticker on a door that says don't carry a gun doing anything?
Yeah, like,
have you seen
I want an answer.
Years?
So
the people that they need to be taking the guns away from can just go get them someplace else.
Pretty much. But okay, all my loves, I'm going to sign off. I have a small sick person. I will post a stream for tomorrow. And love and hugs to all of you guys. Have a great evening. Stay safe.
Night, Loki. Good night, everyone.
Hugs for the shorties.